Welcome to the InfoWars Nightly News. It is Friday, February 6, 2015, and I'm Leanne McAdoo.
Tonight. Yes, it's confirmed. Illegal aliens now qualify to receive tax refunds, thanks to Barack Obama's new amnesty program. Then, a new study claims that marijuana is likely effective against depression.
Hey, bud, let's party.
But I doubt a case of the munchies will even get you to try Michelle Obama's lunch program, as students across the country are posting pictures of their disgusting cafeteria food. All that plus much more up next on the InfoWars Nightly News.
Got another alarming consequence of President Obama's executive amnesty right in time for tax season. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is another loophole in the tax code. It's going to allow illegal immigrants to immediately receive amnesty bonuses. Those with deferred status may be able to receive the earned income tax credit. And this is, someone we're talking about who is here unlawfully, mind you, because Congress hasn't passed immigration reform that the president approves of just yet, and he hasn't actually started enforcing any reform. So these people are still here unlawfully, but they could be able to file an amended tax return for up to the last 3 tax years, possibly receiving upwards of $24,000 in tax credits. Now, this discovery was made by Eileen O'Connor. She's a tax lawyer and the former head of the tax division of the U.S. Department of Justice. She says the law makes a Social Security number a requirement of eligibility to receive the earned income credit. When a person receives a Social Security number, he can then file amended returns to claim the credit for the 3 preceding years during which he did not. And because of an old law in 1999, something was passed that would allow people to retroactively claim credits once they receive a Social Security number. So obviously some puzzling logic there because they didn't qualify for the preceding years, but now they will because of this loophole. Senator Sass, along with Senator Ron Johnson, have released statements regarding these amnesty bonuses, basically saying by offering illegal aliens new payments under the earned income tax credit, the IRS may encourage fraud among those who might claim children living in other countries, and the administration could blow open the doors for fraud with these amnesty bonuses of more than $24,000 to those who receive deferred action. So that's $24,000 per person who might figure out how to retroactively claim these credits. They say most notably, qualified applicants for the president's programs can now claim thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars from this, but additionally, the additional child tax credit. Now, you'll recall we've reported on this before, but these 2 programs were responsible for $21 billion in improper payments, fraudulent payments, and claims in 2013 alone. So, of course, that's all taxpayer money that was just, whoop, oh, sorry, that you didn't deserve that. And that just infuriates me because they also don't have to pay for the Obamacare penalty as well. But you can bet they'll come after you just like they did me for $100. But that's not the only tax fraud that you have to worry yourself with this season. If you file via TurboTax, they have just announced that they have done away with the ability to file e-state tax returns because the company found an increase in suspicious filings. Basically, they're seeing a lot of criminal activity where stolen personal data is used to file fake state returns with state authorities. This illegal act allows fraudsters to claim tax refunds from state governments, and criminals they say the TurboTax says it's not a problem with their software, but the criminals are accessing your data somewhere else, and then they're using TurboTax to file. And then I guess they're having those returns sent to a separate account, or I'm not really sure how they're carrying through with that fraud. But they say there's no indication that H&R Block is having the same issue. So, of course, this is the problem with everything going online. We kind of got this biometric database being set up for us. This is what they're wanting to do, is have all of us have our own biometric data, and that's how we can go ahead and file taxes and do anything with the government. And of course, situations like these where people are filing fraudulent tax returns is going to be something that's a big push toward everyone getting their biometric data as their login, password, and online identity. Now, perhaps in honor of Bob Marley's birthday today, Kit Daniels posted this story. Marijuana is likely and effective against depression. Now, this is according to researchers. They say cannabis could potentially help stabilize moods and ease depression. These are neuroscientists at the University of Buffalo's Research Institute on Addictions. They found that the chemicals in cannabis are comparable to the endocannabinoids that our own body produces, which combat pain and anxiety. And these findings also follow a recent study from some Australian researchers, which found that marijuana can ease chronic pain much more effectively than many conventional medications, which they say this drug is easier than opioid medications, which are highly addictive and can cause accidental overdoses. And, you know, I had a dad. My father had to go through chemotherapy. I saw my 200-pound, 6'2" father going through chemotherapy. He ended up weighing about 125 pounds afterward. And the only thing that worked for him was medicinal marijuana. It was the only thing that helped him. His doctor was able to get it to him. So I have personally seen the benefits of this. But Anthony Gucciardi goes on to say, just to remind people that it doesn't have to be something that can get you high. They use industrial grade hemp, which is a high growing variety of cannabis, and it can be used in protein shakes, building materials, and oils that are used for the prevention and treatment of disease. It does not get you high. There are some very beneficial uses for this plant. A lot of people are pushing for it. We've just saw recently Peter Thiel, the founder of PayPal, became one of the biggest investors in medicinal marijuana. The Department of Justice announced last year that Native American tribes are free to grow and sell marijuana on their land. So we're definitely seeing a huge move towards medicinal marijuana becoming an accepted part of our society. There really is no reason that a plant is banned. But they also talk about some other benefits of marijuana, that it could help sufferers of PTSD. This is a study last year that found that patients who smoke marijuana experienced a 75% loss in post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms. So obviously that could really help our troops. Now, the Marine veteran who killed Chris Kyle was allegedly suffering from PTSD. But INFOWARS reporter Joe Biggs is going to break down some new revelations in that case that could affect the mainstream media's narrative.
Joe Biggs here with INFOWARS.com. Now today I want to talk about Eddie Ray Roth, the former Marine who is responsible for shooting and killing Chris Kyle and Chad Littlefield at a ranch in Texas back on February 2nd, 2013. The official narrative is that this guy had PTSD, was battle hardened, and he essentially spazzed out, flipped out, turned the gun on these two guys, shot and killed them. Now, after an article that came out yesterday at the Blaze, a veterans group claims to have uncovered potentially significant evidence about the Chris Kyle's alleged killer. And what they're saying in the article, they say that Eddie Ray Roth was a FOBIT. A FOBIT is a man who sits on a FOB, which is a forward observation base, and doesn't do anything. He plays solitaire, he runs errands for commanders who don't go outside the wire, probably helps with supplies, maybe works in the cafeteria or the DFAC, and does a lot of leg work around there, never goes outside the wire, doesn't see any combat. And they were saying he was stationed at Balad Air Base, and that's a place that I was at for some time in Iraq, Camp Anaconda. But I was in the little area in the back that was shunned off. We didn't really get any lights or power. We were the guys who went outside the wire when we went into the DFAC. We were all dirty and smelly and covered in blood, and people would look at us like we were crazy. And this is what would happen to a lot of the FOBITs on the base. They would take our stories and then create their own story out of that so they could, write home to mom, dad, girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever, and seem like they're, some kind of badass for actually going outside the wire, when in all actuality, they're the ones scooping our mashed potatoes and putting them on our plate. This guy was said to have had a very low ASVAB score. That is a test you take before you enter the military. Based off that score, you get a job if you have or you'll get a job based off of your score. So if you have a low score like this guy did, then you become a fobbit. You don't do much at all. You do a lot of leg work. If you have a higher score, then you can go into special forces, things like that, aviation, so forth and so on. This guy had a very low score, which means he was probably a pretty stupid guy and very easy to brainwash. So this is where I'm at now. If the guy didn't have PTSD, why would he have taken out Chris Kyle? This guy could have been easily brainwashed. And they're saying at the Boston bombings, people saw the Kraft logo on people's hats and things like that. Now, this makes me think maybe Chris Kyle knew about the plan at the Boston bombing and wanted no part of it. And they took a guy like this, Eddie Ray Roth, and got him to go out there and essentially take out this guy who was a big figurehead, someone that they know that could go out and say something and get a lot of people's attention and get a lot of publicity. It's something to think about. So tell us what you think in the comments below, whether or not you think this is something that could have happened. But I do find it very interesting to know that this was a guy who didn't see any kind of combat experience, was never mortared, was never shot at, anything like that. And then all of a sudden, he just flips out and shoots two people like that. So continue watching our reports here at INFOWARS.com. I'm Joe Biggs.
Black Hawk helicopters were engaged in war games in Miami this week when all of a sudden, one of the choppers dropped a bomb-like ammunitions container overboard. Whoops. Now, what are they doing flying choppers around Miami, low flying in residential areas with boxes full of ammunition for training exercises? Now, they said the silver ammo tin and its contents were recovered Thursday. The police would only say that the container was retrieved safely somewhere in the Northwest County and that it did not strike anyone's home. Oh, thank goodness. Now, Wayne Black of Wayne Black & Associates, he's a security and weapons expert. He told the news there that the container that fell would have held 1,000 rounds of ammunition and would have weighed about 50 pounds. When contacted, an Army Public Affairs officer declined to comment on this errant ammunitions canister or to what extent that they could have been held accountable. But he'd only say that his unit's mantra is safety, safety, safety. But obviously not the safety of the people there in Miami. And heads up, if you are there in Miami, the Army says that the exercises are going to continue through next Thursday. The public is going to receive no notice of when and where these war games are going to be conducted. And the Army's release said that every precaution will be taken to mitigate risks for the safety of all. So again, why are we having these live training exercises, these war game exercises? We're seeing them again in Miami, Chicago, California, cropping up all over the country. And it's getting pretty serious because now they're carrying around live ammo and oops, accidentally dropped. That's a mission fail, if you ask me. Kind of like how they dropped all of the supplies there to ISIS recently. Now, open carriers in Washington state are planning a demonstration. They are protesting after the state there banned them from bringing their firearms into the Senate viewing area. Jakari Jackson has more.
This is Jakari Jackson for INFOWARS.com. Last month, the Washington State Senate said open carriers are no longer welcome in their viewing galleries. Lieutenant Governor Brad Owen announced that the public will no longer be able to openly carry firearms in the state Senate's chambers public viewing area. We're not going to treat them any differently than everyone else, he said to open carry advocates. Owen said that it didn't make sense to allow people to openly carry firearms while banning backpacks, signs, and umbrellas. The last I checked, backpacks and umbrellas were not covered under the United States Constitution. But in response to this, open carry advocates are having a rally tomorrow, the 7th, and we have gun owners prepare for arrest at Washington State Capitol. The Washington State Patrol is expected to arrest anyone entering the viewing chambers openly carrying a firearm, although individuals with a concealed pistol license will be allowed to concealed carry weapons into the chambers. And of course, we know in Washington State, Bloomberg and Bill Gates are up there pushing their anti-gun agenda, so we'll just have to wait and see how this turns out. And last year, you guys may also recall how Arkansas gun range declaring itself to be a Muslim-free zone. But now, after the massacre that happened in Pakistan, Pakistani teachers are now being able to carry in the classroom. After 100